Welcome to the Money Pig Podcast, presented by Goodwin Investment Advisory, where our mission is to lead you to financial pig, peace, independence, and generosity. I'm your host, Tim Goodwin. All right, we are super excited to have our guest today, no other than Joseph Beckford the Fourth, affectionately known around here as Beckforth.
Because it rhymes.
Exactly. Welcome, Joe. Glad to have you back.
Good to be back.
So before we jump into what it means to be a fee-only advisor, clarifying common misconceptions, which sounds like a boring topic, but it's kind of fun because people do get confused about that. So I'm excited we're talking about it. But before we dive into it some more, tell the audience a little bit about Beckforth.
Let's see. So, I'm an advisor here at Goodwin Investment Advisory.
Grateful for that.
I'm the senior advisor here.
Hey-o.
So I've got most of the gray hair, which is pretty awesome. Have a beautiful wife, Mary Ellen, and 3 kids, Beverly, Bobby, and Jade. And my youngest is now officially an adult that can not only vote, but drink, which is terrifying. So
we're not that worried about Jay though, are we?
No.
No.
We got that going for us.
That's awesome. So that's incredible.
There's a little
You're
bit.
a big family man. You love time with your wife, your kids, your grandkids. Super awesome.
That's what it's about.
So got a question for you. Do you know how Moses makes coffee? He brews it. Like he brews it.
Oi.
Crickets. Where's that little sound effect?
Oy vey, Moses.
So
he's rolling over.
I apologize for the dad joke as well as my voice. It's a little froggy. Got sick a couple weeks ago. Still coming back. Maybe I just need to stop talking one day. That'd be impossible. Maybe
Who would say that?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's jump right in. So starting with why are we talking about what it means to be a fee-only advisor? It's because there are these misconceptions around it. There are different ways to pay a financial professional when it comes to personal financial services. And so we want to bring some clarity around that. So starting with the end in mind as well, at the end of this podcast, we hope that our audience has a better understanding of what a fee-only advisor is and is not. We also want to let listeners know, if you don't make it to the end of the pod, hopefully we haven't lost you already, you can look in the show notes and you can get access to a link to our blog that's on this topic. And that's free. There's no information needed. It's not a guide. It's a blog. If you like that, very well-written blog by our content creator, Tara Bruce, please subscribe to the blog. We've got over 4,000 people getting closer to the 5,000 number every day on our blog. And we'd love to continue to add value to you in that way. So let's jump off. Joe, let's define it. What's a fee-only advisor? What does that mean?
You would think that would be easy, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I have a fee and that's only what I pay. right? But in a nutshell, that is honestly what it is. So a fee-only advisor means that the advisor is compensated by the fees they charge you. And that's it. And a lot of people want that. That sounds, how
else could they be compensated?
Well, they could be compensated by the kinds of things that they try to sell you, like a product, right? So a lot of investment vehicles are actually based in insurance.
Right.
So sometimes some of those products like cash value life insurance policies and annuities and things like that come with large commissions. And so sometimes the person...
But isn't the client paying that commission? The customer buying that product? Where's the money come from?
They're buying the product, but think of it as like a marketing fee. It's a commission from the person. In this case, let's say it's an insurance company I'm representing.
We'll call it ABC Company.
Call it insurance company ABC.
Yeah.
Is really hoping that I sell this product to somebody.
Okay.
Because that's a great seller for them. So I put a client into that. They are willing to pay me a commission on the back end for that. So the client doesn't actually pay.
Right.
that.
So the check to pay your fee doesn't come from the client or from the client's account. It actually comes from the issuer of the product. In this case, ABC Company is writing you a check. Mm-hmm. How's the ABC Company getting paid back?
Your money is in that.
Right. So the customer buys a product.
The customers bought the product.
Right.
And there are typically, in those kinds of products, all kinds of gauges and limits, and they're all complicated and they're all different, but there are all kinds of little gauges where the company makes incremental money and fees from having that.
Yeah. So they get reimbursed over time based on the fees inside the product. 100%. Right. This is why, like with a variable annuity, if you try to, what do they call it? Surrender the annuity, within a few years, basically before the companies got paid back for paying the commission to the guy or gal that sold it to you, you pay a surrender charge, which I've always understood as reimbursing the company whatever they haven't been able to collect by having your product over time for what they paid the commission-based person. So we're going down a rabbit hole, but I think it's important to define like that's a product, that's a commission, that's not fee only.
That is not fee only.
Okay.
That's not fee only. You know, you could think that if I were your advisor and I was putting you in that product and that was the only thing that I did for you, that I was free because you didn't pay me.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That
about a
sounds
misconception.
like, that sounds like that could be free. But it really wasn't. To your point, I've been paid a big commission on the back end, and you, the client, now has this product. And if, to your point, if you're not in it for long enough to where the company has made my commission back from you, and you wake up and you have buyer's remorse next year or the year after,
right,
they're going to come after you and there's going to be a penalty.
Yep.
They're not going to come back to me for my commission.
No, they're not.
They're going to pull it out of your principal.
That's right. That's right.
Something like that.
And I love transparency, you know, and I'm proud to say that this company, since it started in 2004, has never received a dime from a financial company, from an ABC-like company that we talked about. 100% of every dime of revenue we made since we started has come directly from our clients, mostly via their accounts with their names on it. Right. But we don't make commission here. We only do a fee. Before we go into what those fees could be, I wanted to share that as an industry, as also a consumer advocate in this field, I hope and wish and pray one day that it is the law that somebody getting paid a commission to sell a product has to disclose the dollars to that customer that they're going to get paid before the customer buys a product. And that is the law in the UK. And so that dramatically reduced the amount of products being sold and even people in that industry because of that transparency. You know, how is that individual acting in your best interest when they're making that kind of money selling you a product? So we don't do it that way. I don't want to vilify those people because there's some great people in that industry. And there's some folks that products are maybe the only way for them to access some financial advice and services. But in our case, we're fee only. What are the examples of the way that you could pay a fee only advisor?
3 ways that I can think of. So one of them is
That's good because that's all I can think of too.
That's great. One of them is an asset under management fee, right?
Okay.
So let's say that you are hiring an advisor to not only give you advice, but also to manage investments for you. And they can charge you as a percentage of the money that you're willing to let them manage.
What is that, like 20, 30% of what you manage? Any financial advisor listening is like, come on.
Closer to 1, usually, depending on the amount that you have. And I know the way we do it, I think typical in the industry is the more money that you are willing to allow an advisor to manage, the less rate that you end up paying.
The effective rate goes down.
The effective rate goes down.
Kind of like your effective tax rate goes up the more money you make with the IRS. We're the other way around. The more money we manage for you, your effective rate goes down.
I tell clients that, the more money you make, the IRS is punitive. And the more money that you let us manage, we give you a bonus.
Yeah,
on that,
exactly.
On that. So it's a percent of that. And we typically do that because, once you're here, and I tell clients this all the time, just because of the business model that we have, because we provide advice and investment management at the same time, you don't get less advice by us managing less money for you than if you get more.
Point. Yeah.
So we can afford to have a discount for managing more money. It doesn't mean I'm giving you
less services, less advice,
less services,
less access. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So asset under management, a percentage of the assets your advisor manages is one way that you can pay. What are some other ways you can pay a fee only advisor?
You could do a flat fee. So you could just say, hey, I'll be your advisor. And it doesn't matter if I manage $10 for you or $1 million for you or no dollars for you. And you're going to pay me X dollars a month, X dollars a year.
Okay.
However you want to do it. We just have
fee, monthly.
It's like a subscription. Yeah. You can pay me monthly. You can pay me quarterly, however we've agreed to do it. And then I'm kind of on demand for you.
Okay. And then the last one I think is hourly.
Correct.
Right. So just paying for time and effort. You sit down with the advisor, you're billed an hourly rate, or maybe when the advisor is working on your plan or giving you advice on your investments, they're just literally doing billable hours for you. So
just like the legal profession would charge.
Exactly. Yeah. That's really similar. So actually, I was just thinking too, one of the other flat fee arrangements would be maybe not an ongoing fee, one-time flat fee to build a financial plan. So some financial advisors will say, sit down with me and tell me everything you need in your financial plan, how complex it is. And they might say, okay, that's going to be $5,000. And so you cut a check for $5,000. They give you a comprehensive financial plan and you're done. Right. That's flat and that's one time. Or there's flat and ongoing, like you explained.
Right.
So very cool. All right. So now that we've defined what it is, let's talk a little bit more about the misconception. So misconception one is fee only means that you're only paying an hourly or one-time fee. So I guess as we built in, we're missing one here.
We kind of know that's not true because we've left out, what's behind door number one, which is we're going to manage investments for you and you're going to pay as a percentage of how much we're managing for you.
Yeah. And let's just go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. Why do people put cats in bags? Like that kind of sounds like fun. Like, did Chevy Chase do that one time? Gotta be, right? Yeah, definitely Chevy Chase. You know what I mean?
Are you sure you're old enough to know Chevy Chase?
I mean,
okay.
Come on.
I'm just thinking.
Christmas Vacation, the classic. So
100%.
Oh my goodness, let's go. So to let the cat out of the bag is out of the three ways you could pay a fee-only advisor, AUM, flat, or hourly, we really prefer one way. And we really just do one way, which is the AUM fee.
The AUM fee, that's right.
Why is it that we prefer the AUM fee model?
That is a great question. And so let me go over that a little bit. One reason that I don't love flat fee personally is because a lot of people will hold themselves out and say, to your point, I'll do your full financial plan, comprehensive. You'll have this beautiful book. You'll walk away. It'll cost you $5,000. The reality is you're going to walk away with a book that's beautiful that costs you $5,000 and it's going to sit on a shelf and that's where it's going to sit. And one of my mentors years ago used to say, plans are nothing. Planning is everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if I've just given you an ad hoc plan and say, good luck, good riddance, go for it. And you paid me for a lot of work. And because those are a lot of work. So I'm not saying that the people don't warrant their money. It's not going to move the needle in your life because your likelihood of actually implementing those decisions or even knowing how to implement all those decisions is really low.
I find that folks that want a one-time flat financial plan are typically kind of DIYers.
Yeah.
Like they're typically the ones that manage their assets the whole time, don't mind the stress, don't mind the anxiety around it. They're well informed, but they just aren't a professional. So they want to sit down with a professional, kind of get that pat on the back. Yeah, you're doing it right. That confidence, somebody that's, trying to think of things that maybe they haven't thought of. So those are the type of people that I see maybe just pay for a fixed plan here and there that just kind of want that one-time confidence. But kind of what you're alluding to is that that's not the typical client we work with. And that's not typically the clients we attract. Typically, the clients we attract are finding it increasingly stressful to manage these assets that they've grown. They're finding it increasingly stressful to make all these financial planning decisions on their own. They know they don't know what they don't know, and they want to sit down with a professional they trust that's experienced to talk about it, right? And I think what I'll add is why I don't like the hourly as much, because you said, why not the flat fee?
Sure.
I'll take the other one on the hourly. I don't like the hourly as much. They might help you with advice. But generally, an advisor is not going to charge you hourly to manage your investments. When they have discretion over your investments and manage them for you, there's a lot more costs and compliance involved. And so that's usually going to be an AUM fee. So they might be giving you advice, but a lot of times when it comes to retirement in the US, it's building those investable assets that need to be invested well. They're not going to be doing that for you for an hourly rate. They might tell you what to do, but they're not going to be pulling the trigger. And for a lot of our clients, they don't want to decide. They don't want to pull the trigger. They don't want that liability. They really want to share that liability with an advisor who's willing to manage those investments and make those decisions for them.
Yeah. So going to our third, assets under management, why do we decide that we want to do that?
Right.
And I think it's because of what you just said. We really want to help move the needle in a client's life, right? So we want to not only walk with them as the guide in making better financial decisions through their life, like, when do I take Social Security? Do I take it early? Do I not? Do I do a Roth conversion? Do I not? Do I take that payout? Do I sell the business now? Do I wait 5 years? There are a lot of really complicated financial decisions that aren't actually related necessarily to the portfolio itself. However, the portfolio itself is what we are growing and growing and growing, and ultimately enables you to have that financial freedom and the independence and do things later in life that you're going to want to do. Acquire a new business. Retire early, give money to grandkids, whatever that looks like.
Right.
That money has to be shepherded well. And because we feel like we do a pretty good job in investment management, and it's a collaborative effort with the client on the strategy that they choose, that we feel like it's a much bigger value proposition to
Absolutely.
do it that way.
Totally agree. And I always like to say, follow the money. Follow the money.
For sure.
We design a business model here where we are monetarily motivated to act in the best interest of our clients. If we are getting a percentage of the account or the multiple accounts, plural, that we manage for a client, what is our incentive? To grow the accounts, to grow the pie, because we get a piece of the pie. Even though our effective rate goes down, the dollars go up, just not as fast as the account level goes up, right?
Sure.
Since our effective rate goes down as we manage more money for our clients. So we want the account to grow. What does that mean? Well, that means we want to keep fees as low as possible, especially when it comes to the accounts we're using, the annual fees, the trade fees, the investments we're selecting, and their internal expenses like the expense ratio. We also want to control risk because we don't want to see that value go down faster than the client's risk level, et cetera, et cetera. And we want to maximize returns, which is all the things that an owner of that account wants. We're on the same corner, the same side of the court, right? As the client, we're the advocate and making those decisions the same way often the client would make. So that's another reason why I love the AUM model as well. And we are monetarily motivated to keep up with that investment performance. If you buy a product and pay a one-time commission, that advisor does not have a monetary motivation to ensure that investment that they sold to you performs like you thought it would when you bought it.
There's no ongoing
supervision,
and there's no ongoing monetary incentive for that
Exactly.
advisor. So
you got to follow the money.
And an advisor is going to do what an advisor gets paid to do.
Yep.
And if they get paid once to set it and forget it, guess what? That's probably what happens.
Yep. Exactly. All right. So let's move on to the misconception 2. Fee-only advisors are more expensive.
Okay. More expensive than what would be my first one, right?
That's a good point.
So as soon as we say more, we're talking relative. So what does that mean? More expensive than, to your point, you said like a lot of people are DIYers and just manage their own investments and don't necessarily ask for help. So is a fee-only advisor more expensive than that? Well, probably in dollars, yes. However, we always talk about, but what's the value proposition?
Yeah. What's the outcome?
What is the outcome, right? And if the outcome of hiring an advisor, hopefully us, isn't more than it would be minus the fee that you paid us, then yeah, we're more expensive.
We're too expensive.
But typically that's not what happens. We help people avoid pitfalls when you get forks in the road, make the right choice in addition to investment performance. And so more expensive, it's always going to be hard to quantify.
It really is.
It's certainly more than zero.
We need the butterfly effect to happen. Okay, if you kept managing it on your own, but we kept managing it, we could run that in a parallel universes. What's the end result?
Right.
We can't do that. I remember Clark Howard, who's a famous radio talk show host in Atlanta. He said, now he is a big fan of low fees and understanding the fees that you pay.
Sure.
But he also would
100%.
say, would you rather have a investment that only charges you 1%, but makes 10% a year, so you net 9, or would you want an investment that charges you 2%, but makes 20% a year, and so your net is 18, right? And he's like, obviously, the outcome is better for the second one to get 18% return versus 9. Now, again,
Sure.
I'm not setting any expectations here. There's a lot of investments out there that make ongoing 20% return, but he's just trying to use this example of, you can't just buy the cheapest thing. And, a lot of us in life believe in this, motto that you get what you pay for as well. So potential clients are looking at our services. They're going to see that we're not the cheapest out there.
For sure. We don't pretend to be.
We don't pretend to be, but we do want to be the best. We want to provide the best client experience with the best outcomes. So hopefully we are getting better returns, even net of our fee, after our fee is taken out, than our clients would get on their own. It's hard to know for sure.
It is.
But in addition to that, we're helping to reduce that financial anxiety by doing the ongoing planning and helping them make better financial planning decisions that might have an even bigger impact on their net worth and even on their ability of when they can retire and how soon.
Sure. And part of that, Tim, too, is kind of a secondary goal that we have is to help people minimize taxes over their lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's difficult to quantify when we're like, well, how much does it cost to not give the government an extra $150,000 over my lifetime? Versus if I made these other decisions, that's what would have happened. How do you quantify that?
And what if you invested that money?
Sure.
Right. So that changes it. Yeah. There's totally times where we're like, hey, I think if you made your contributions in this way this year, you'd actually save $1,000 or $2,000 on taxes, or you'd save the taxes later. Or if you do a bunching strategy with a donor advised fund,
right. Or we do Roth conversions or
so
any
there's
myriad of things.
A lot of different tax strategies that we can offer that can improve the tax return and the long-term, like you say, minimize the taxes over the lifetime of the client is something we're looking at. And so sometimes it's hard to quantify, but it is an extra value.
For sure.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, so let's wrap up here with misconception 3, fee-only advisors only manage investments.
Well, I think we dispersed that at the very beginning, right?
Yeah,
because
that's true.
you could easily flat fee pay somebody to build you a plan. They're not managing your investments. You could hourly pay somebody to just give you advice.
Yep.
Just sit down and say, I don't know anything about investing. And a lot of times somebody who's brand new, who doesn't really have money, but hasn't had the opportunity to have any financial coaching or advice, because we don't do a good job in this country of teaching that in high school.
No,
for instance.
Not even in college.
Yeah.
Even if you get the degree.
If you're not, you got to be a business major to even get exposed to some of this stuff. So it's not uncommon at all that people want to make smart decisions early in life when they haven't amassed any money to manage, but they need some help. I mean, that's the ideal hourly person right there.
Yes.
And that's
Younger
a fee-only
folks.
arrangement, and no money's getting managed for that. So
maybe some advice on what to buy, but certainly you would have to pull that trigger.
Sure.
So, the goal of a fee-only advisor is to be as unbiased as possible.
Mm-hmm.
We work for our clients. And so if they're upset about where we park their money, we use Fidelity Investments now.
Right.
If for some reason they weren't happy with Fidelity Investments, we could move somewhere else. We don't work for Fidelity. They work for our clients.
We don't get paid by Fidelity.
We don't get paid by Fidelity. And so in the accounts, our clients log into at Fidelity Investments, it's not all Fidelity funds or products, right? We really try to be unbiased because we're paid by our clients. So if we're paid by our clients, then we can look at the whole world, the whole universe of investment options and pick the best ones for our clients because we're paid by them. We are not beholden to a company that issues it or a financial company. We're beholden to our clients. Now, to kind of end, though, I know we're sitting here tooting our horn about being fiduciary and fee-only advisors. Are financial advisors that are fee-only fiduciaries, are they conflict-free?
No.
They're not. Is that kind of a red herring, purple unicorn?
I don't think it exists, and I don't see how it possibly could.
Right.
And here's why. And I tell clients this all the time when they will ask me, "What should I do with extra money?"
Yeah.
And I always just address the elephant in the room and say, if I advise you to put money in an account I manage, I will get paid on it. So let's just eliminate that.
Let's just make that clear.
Let's just make that very clear right now.
I can calculate it for you if you want to know the dollars.
Yeah, there is an air of transparency there that if my advice is that you put it in an account that we manage or open a new account, understand I'll get paid on that. So I'm incentivized. So you have to know that going in.
That's conflict.
But now let me show you why I still think that's the right idea.
Right. And
or sometimes it's not the right idea.
Hey, and in your defense, you're probably also saying the other ideas too, though.
Oh,
you know
100%.
What I mean? Oh, we could pay down the house, or we could build the savings, or maybe make
you could buy the investment property. You could do,
exactly.
You could do one of these 4 things, and I'll show, here are growth projections that we would expect of each of these.
Yeah.
And what's going to make you sleep better at night.
Yeah. That's
how you need to decide.
Is that peace of mind. So our goal is to really inform the client of all the options, and they ultimately make the decision about it. So
because we're the guide, we're not the hero.
Yeah, we're the guide. But they do often add the money to the managed accounts, because that's helping. They when they see those results and they see how we're managing the risk and the return and the fees over time, they're like, well, I mean, that's a good place too.
Yeah.
So that's great. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for doing that. That was fantastic. Don't forget to, when you're looking at a fee-only advisor, don't forget to check their credentials. Make sure they have licenses. We're all certified financial planners here. We're big fans of being a CFP. Not all advisors have to be a CFP, but internally we think that makes the advisor more qualified. Ask about compensation. Be very clear with the advisor you're using. How are you compensated? I mean, ask about like actual dollars, percentages of their hidden costs. Are you just getting paid by me, or are you getting paid by somebody else? This is something not everybody's aware of, but check complaints. So all of us that are licensed and registered with the government, with the SEC, with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And if somebody files a formal complaint, that is stuck to your record. So when you're looking at hiring a financial advisor, I would check to see if they have any formal complaints filed with the SEC. So far, so good here, Joe.
So far, so good.
4 advisors, no complaints. So that's awesome. And then last but not least, check reviews. The SEC is giving us some ability now in terms of marketing to let clients leave reviews. You may not find them everywhere, but Google is one of those places that I'm starting to see a lot more advisors get Google reviews. We have quite a bit of those, so check those out as well. So thank you so much for listening. And if you've made it this far, wanted to remind you to check out the show notes to download this blog for free. And if you like it, subscribe to the blog. I also wanted to thank our producer, Angela Lyle, and our content creator, Tara Bruce. And I always love to sign off with gratitude. So as you're thinking of something to be grateful for, Joe, I will start with that I have gratitude for a car that has relatively low maintenance. Just grateful for a car that doesn't break down. I used to have a car that wouldn't necessarily always start, a car that was so used. I feel like even though I owned it, the payment was the ongoing maintenance. You know what I mean? So grateful for a car that just doesn't seem to, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. So I'm very happy for a dependable car that doesn't have an ongoing increasing cost of maintenance. What about you?
So I'll sound cheesy. I'm grateful that I get to do this cool job.
Oh, listen to this guy.
I know, but for real, when you get to move the needle on people's lives, and when you meet with a client and they walk out of here and they say, "Thank you, this was really helpful and beneficial," and they mean it. I mean, that's the reason I do. Yeah, you do.
Awesome.
And I haven't always had that benefit in my lifetime of jobs, and so. Yeah, I'm pretty grateful from where I'm sitting.
It is such a meaningful career. And the fact that we do have that ongoing relationship with the client, we really get to know them. It's not just one transaction and they're gone. You get to know. I just noticed one of my clients today hit 20 years. 20 years being a client here. Yeah. And Angela over here, our producer, sends them a pretty sweet gift on their 20 years. So it's pretty cool. We've been in business for only 20 and a half years.
I know. I was going to say,
has been here
that's an OG.
Yeah, it's an OG. Yeah. I always joke about one maybe with a certain lack of judgment to hire such a young advisor so long ago. But anyway, I joke about that.
Worked out okay.
Super, super grateful. Loyalty is attractive. So,
yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Joe. Thanks, listeners. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Money Pig Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. To stay updated on new episodes, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you found value in today's discussion, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about the topics we covered, feel free to visit us at goodwininvestment.com and reach out. This episode is produced by evance.net. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice, a solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles, nor as a basis for making any financial decisions. Goodwin Investment Advisory is a registered investment advisor with the SEC, CRD number 131193. Please note that the host and or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investments mentioned in this podcast. Investments carry risk and are not guaranteed unless stated otherwise. We strongly recommend consulting with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and or legal professional before implementing any strategies discussed in this episode. Lastly, past performance is not indicative of future results.